just like to all the class 11 students. So today we will going to start with chapter number 1, that is Constitution, why and how. This is from the textbook of Indian Constitution at Work. In this lesson, we will going to learn what is the need of the Constitution and functions of the Constitution and the authority of the Constitution, how Constitution gets its authority. But before we go any further, it is important for you to understand the meaning of the Constitution itself. So here's the meaning of the Constitution. It is a compact document that comprises a number of articles about the state, specifying how the state is to be constituted and what norms it should follow. So it basically means it is a compilation of a number of documents that comprises a number of articles about the state, on how the state should be governed and what kind of norms it should follow while it is governing the state. The previous one is showing the colors. The Constitution is in the article Mambuchik say. Any article any article any correct Lamdun Shivor is any state that the Zuki, Shunga, any contesting your children, any crowds of Totan Kariume, any game Kariume, and then did I do any was in your chair, any the principles, the values, Shila Shani, it's in your contestation, Zumaba, number one deacon is, and did Shiva Harper is Mimala Totan Kariume, Mimala Linge Kariume. Okay, now here's the picture of the Constitution of India. So as we have already discussed the definition of the Constitution. So according to the definition, Constitution is a compact of documents. So this book is a compact of document, compilation of number of documents, and in those documents it is comprises of a number of articles. For example, Article 12 to 35, we have our fundamental rights of India, right? So through those rights, it will ensure the citizens to have a freedom of thoughts, freedom of expressions. So these rights are meant for the development of the personal development of the citizen. And no state government or government is allowed to violate those rights. And these fundamental rights are mentioned in the Constitution of India. Okay, so in this slide we will going to discuss another topic, that is why do we need a constitution, and at the same time we will also going to discuss the functions of the constitution, because both of the topics there's a number of points which will reflect or answer both the topic. Okay, so both the topics have quite similar points, so that's why we are discussing in the same slide. So the function, one of the important functions it performs is to provide a set of basic rules that allow for coordination among the members of the society. So what Constitution does is it will provide or allows the coordination within the members of the society. Now let's take an example of a society, considerably a large society, in which it is filled with a number of people with the different backgrounds, different beliefs, different set of perceptions, different ideology. So it is very likely that we are going to see a number of conflict within the members of the society. So, but at the same time, since they are living in a society, they have to live together, and because they are dependent on each other. Now, if you are being asked, what kind of solution would you give to enable the society to live in a peaceful manner? So, what suggestion would you give? Now, the best solution would be if the members of the society will decide to live or decide to respect a same rule, or decided to adopt common rules that is applicable to all the society, so that they can avoid certain conflicts or reduce a conflict. Okay. Now the question is, Why do they need a basic rule, a common rule? Now, in order to answer that, we have to take another example. Let's say we are living in a society where there's a different set of rules which is being followed by different communities. Okay. Now, what happened in this kind of situation is people will going to feel insecure. The members of the society will definitely going to feel insecure about secure because every community is following a different rules, and the rules that are being followed by themselves is not applicable to them. So it will going to generate a lot of insecurity within the members of the society. Okay. Therefore, it is very necessary that in a society, it is very necessary to have a common law which is being respected by all the members of the society, and at the same time which is applicable to all the members of the society. Right? Now, will that be enough to have a common law in a society to reduce conflict and crime? Still, it won't be enough to have a mere rules, a common law. We need a certain institution to make sure to enforce those laws. Right? Enforce those adopted laws to reduce the crime. Because if there's no such institution like police and the judiciary, then everyone will going to take an advantage, even though there is a certain rules, but everyone will going to take an advantage because they knows that no one will going to punish them. All right. So it is very necessary to have a law. At the same time, there needs a certain institution to enforce those laws. Okay. So in order to have a coordination within the members of the society, so they need a certain law which is applicable to all the society, all the members, and at the same time they need a certain institution to make sure to enforce those laws. Okay. Okay. Now next topic, next point is next function the Constitution performs is to specify who has the powers to make decisions in the society, and it decides how the government will be constituted. So this is the one of the important function Constitution performs is it allocates the powers between different institutions. So it will allocate the powers and responsibility to legislature. For example, let's take an example of the three pillars of the democracy, that is legislature, executive, and judiciary. So legislature, they were assigned with the task of making a new policies and passing the new laws, right? And the executives are assigned with or entrusted with the task of executing those laws and policies passed by the legislature, and the judiciary's main job is to bring the justice in the society. So all these institutions were assigned with the different responsibilities because it is assigned by the Constitution. So the Constitution has specified how much power do they have, legislature have, how much power executive have, how much power judiciary have. So they basically what they did is they try to specify the powers between the three institutions and make a decision in the society, and it decides how the government will be constituted. So it will guide the states on how the government should be, state should be run. Okay. Okay, but all right. Now allocation done, but in a specific decision-making powers. Okay, and I almost forgot one important point. So in here, what the Constitution does is it also specifies what kind of decision-making powers would they have. Like, right. So let's take an example of non-democratic country. For example, a monarchy country, any monarchy country. Throughout the history, there are a number of monarchy countries in which all the major decisions were made by either king or queen. So decisions they have made should be obeyed by everyone, whether they like it or not. They have to obey it, right? So let's take another example of China. In China, all the major decision is made by one party, that is Communist Party. So uh, people are not allowed to, or not allowed to make any suggestion, all right, criticize the government. So all the major decisions is made by a single party, right? But unlike in a democratic system, every decision, important decision, is made by people. So people will decide whom to choose, uh, whom to elect as their representative, right? So these are the major difference between a country with the monarchy system and other non-democratic system, right? Um, okay, now let's move on to the next topic, that is to set some limits on what government can impose on its citizen, right? Now, Constitution will, another important function Constitution performs is to set some limits on what the government can impose on its citizens. Now, let's say we have chosen a government through previous last election, and in our last election we decided to cast our votes to certain government, and likewise, the government was chosen as they decided to form, they won the election and form the government, right? Now, what that government did was, once it formed a government, they decided to pass a number of laws which are unfavorable, or we can say it is unjust to you, unfair to you. Now, what happened is, if you do not put a certain limits on the government, it will going to make a certain laws, and which might turn out to be a very unfair and injustice, right? For example, that same particular government have decided to pass a law that says you are not allowed to wear certain clothes and eat certain foods, and you are not allowed to even sing a certain song. So that would be a very unfair decision and unfair policies, right? So if the constitution does not put a limit, then government, that particular government will might mm, take a certain decision and make a very unfair policies in the future. So what a constitution does is it puts a certain limits on a government, so that it will make sure that government does not cross a certain limits. So this is the one of the most important function it performs uh, by putting some limits on the government. Now, one of the best example for putting a limit on the government is through our fundamental rights. If we take an example of fundamental rights, it is very important rights for all the every citizens of the country. So, in a constitution, it stated that no government or no any institution is allowed to violate those rights. Okay, so in a way, it is putting some limits on the government. Whether you are running your government, while you are running a government, you are not allowed to violate those rights. All right. So, in short, it is putting a certain limits on the government. Okay. Okay, so in this slide, we will going to discuss another important functions of the Constitution is to enable the government to fulfill the aspirations of the society and create a condition of a just society. That means, Constitution. What Constitution does is it will create or try to take a necessary steps to fulfill the aspirations of the society. Now, if we talk about the constitution which were made before the 20th centuries, then most of the 20th centuries, before the 20th centuries constitution were has focused mainly on the specification and limitations of the power. All right, but constitution which were made after the 20th century, for example, India, then they have not only focused on the limitations and the specification of the decision making power, but also they have also through their constitution they have also empowered and enabled the government to take unnecessary steps to fulfill the aspirations of the society. In short, we can say that governments are enabled and empowered to take or do certain positive things to help the society, to fulfill the aspirations of the society. All right. Now, if we let's take an example of India again. If we now India is one of those nations who are deeply rooted with the caste system, right? Caste problems has been a very big issue in Indian throughout the history of India, and still it is one of the major problem. So since nowadays, society, most of the people's aspiration is to abolish this caste system and uh, abolish the cycle of the system of caste. So it is a government's duty to take a necessary step to fulfill those aspirations of the society. Likewise, in South Africa, the problem of apartheid, right? So a number of black people were marginalized in their own country, right, in their own native land. So it has become a very problematic, and later on, the society aspires to become a equal society where there's no difference between a black and a white people. So government have taken a certain steps to make sure their aspirations were fulfilled. So through that, constitution performs a very important role to guide the government to do a certain positive things. All right. Now the next is to constitution will provide the next function it performs is, and we can say a need for the constitution is to it will provide a fundamental identity to the people. Now once we as a citizen of a country, you once you decided to abide those laws, right, then the constitution will automatically return or provide you with certain rights, right? Once, for example, like once you turn 18, you are allowed to take participate in the election, right? You can cast your own votes, you can choose your own representative. So these are the political identity you are being provided by the constitution once you. But prior to that, prior to the political identity, you have your own identity. You have a number of identity in terms of your job, in terms of your gender, in terms of your religion. You will identify yourself as a Buddhist, right? You will identify, some may identify themselves as a Muslim, right? So these are the category of a religion identity, right? So these are the prior to the political identity, you have a numerous identity. You will identify yourself as, but after you decided to respect the constitution of the country, you will get a certain identity, that is political identity. That is once you decided to respect the constitution, you will get certain rights that you can enjoy in a society, right? So these are the some of the, there are certain political and not only political, then you will also get a moral. So in this slide, we will going to discuss factors necessary for effective constitution. So in other words, we are discussing the importance of the constitution, how constitution gets its authority. Now everyone knows that constitution has a certain authority on this members of this society as a citizens of the country. The constitution has authority on the citizens, right? But why do they have authority on us? So it is important to understand the authority of the constitution towards the members of the society. There are a number of factors which contributes to the effectiveness of the constitution, and as we all are aware that throughout the history, a number of countries, even though they have a constitution, their constitution remains unstable and very weak. But in some countries, for example, India, US, and South Africa, their constitution has been a very successful constitution. So, what factors which makes a huge difference in countries such as India and some other countries, right? So there are certain factors which contributes to the effectiveness of the constitution. Let's start with the first point, that is mode of promulgation, who, in which it will include two major important factors, that is who crafted the constitution and how much authority did they have. Did they have refers to the one who made the constitution, right? So in many countries, as I told you, constitution remained defunct, and for example, Pakistan and Cuba, their constitution remained very unstable and very weak. It was not able to generate authority over its citizens. So many leaders came over and they abolished or subverted the constitution and declared them as a leader. So many generals have came in their history throughout the history and dictate. So, but if you take an example of India, then there are a number of people who were involved in the framing of the constitution were very popular among the people and who were able to generate a lot of support from the people and have command over the people. And that means, in short, we are saying they were very important leaders and very popular leaders, right? Therefore, they were able to create these effective constitution, right? Because they were popular, therefore people will also going to support whatever they have created. So it is necessary that the ones who are involved in the making of the constitution should be very popular and charismatic leaders. And these are some of the countries who have very popular or successful constitutions so far. And some of the main reason is due to the charismatic leaders. Now, there are some countries whose constitution have been very weak because their constitution were created or framed by their leaders who are not popular among the people, or who are dictator. Either they are dictator, or either they are king. So, which does not have popular support from the people. Therefore, it did not remain as an effective constitution. Okay, so this is the one of the major. Okay, now we're going to discuss another important factor which is necessary for the effectiveness of the constitution is substantive provisions. Substantive means those important provisions through which constitution is able to make or improve the lives of the poor, especially poor people, right? Certain section of the people. So through these important provisions, for example, like you must have heard about the free and compulsory education for all the children below 14 years, right? Now these are some of the important provisions through which a poor section of the people were able to get some benefits, right? And there are other provisions such as education for minorities, right? Now these are some of the important provisions which gives a reason for all the poor section of the people to respect the constitution and go along with the constitution. Otherwise, if the constitution remains biased towards a certain section of the people or the higher classes, then it would definitely cease to get its allegiance from the people, because most of the people are not getting benefit from the constitution. So there's no reason to go along with the constitution and respect the constitution. So it is very necessary to have introduce a provisions or certain provisions which will benefit the most sections of the people to get the respect and become to have the legitimacy of the constitution. All right. So, in short, we are saying that in order to have an effective constitution, it also have to make sure to benefit the certain section of the people, most of the people, to get the support of the people, right? To get the respect of the people, because they are benefiting Okay, so so if any constitution that gives privilege to some section of the people at the cost of other members, then they will have no reason to respect the constitution. Like I said, the constitution will not going to get respect from the people if they are not getting any enough benefit from the constitution, or constitution is being biased towards a certain section of the people at the cost of most of the poor section of the people. Okay, so the constitution has to be a very beneficial tool, and through the provisions. The more constitution preserves the values and principles, the more it is likely to succeed. Now, the success of the constitution or effectiveness of constitution mainly depends on the how constitution preserve the values and the principles. For example, justice, fair. So these are the some of the important principles and values which the constitution has to preserve or make sure to preserve or uphold in the society. Okay, so that no poor section of the people, poor section or poor people will suffer from the higher classes of the people. Now the last topic is last factor for the effectiveness of the constitution is balanced institutional design. Now what happens in throughout the history is many of the groups in the various countries in throughout the history they have tried to subvert the constitution, right? They have tried to subvert the constitution for the sake of their own power, right? In order to enrich their own power. So constitution has been mainly tried to subvert it in different areas, different history throughout the history in the different countries, like Nazi by Hitler, right? And in fact they have successfully subverted the constitution. Uh, Now constitution are subverted mainly by a group of people. Now now let's explore what kind of constitution is considered as a well-crafted constitution. Now, well-crafted constitution, there are certain constitutions which has not been subverted by any group of people throughout their history. For example, India, USA. So, why their constitution is very effective, right? Now, their constitutions are very well-crafted because they have intelligently fragmented the power. Now, constitution, what their constitution did was they have fragmented the power between the institutions, within the institutions, and make sure to have a system of a check and balance system. If the one institution is trying to cross a certain limits, then other institution will should have enough power to check the other institution. Okay, so in order to avoid the monopoly of the power. So if there is a well fragmented or well intelligent fragmentation of the power, distribution of power between the institutions, then they will have a system of check and balance, so that they can avoid a monopoly of the power, which ensures the system of check and balance. Constitution also has to maintain a balance between rigidity and flexibility. Now, constitution have also has to make sure to have maintain a balance between flexibility and rigidity. Now, what it means is constitution has to be flexible enough to change according to the time, because if the constitution remains same and old, then it will going to take a tolls by the changing time. Okay, so it is necessary to have a flexible constitution. At the same time, it maintains its rigidity. Now, if the constitution keeps on changing, that at every now and then, there will be a time that people will going to lose their respect to the constitution, because they can predict that the constitution will going to change sooner or later. Okay, so it has to maintain a balance between a rigidity and flexibility. And let's take an example of a Indian constitution in which there is a recent change, like lesbian and gay. It used to be a crime considered under crime, but if I'm not wrong, in 2018 they have legalized it. So these are some changes made according to the time. Okay, so thank you very much, and I will going to summarize all the topic in Tibetan. in a brief, okay. 먼저 가르가 자는 constitution is meaning 자는에 constitution 만 칼로거에 리서치레스 나오는 남테 뭐 수요레스 article 인수기 남들 시고레스 디줄라 먼저 constitution is 랭기 다 아니 needs 이견도 먼저 이 디체레 가지는 이게 아주 points story레 functions 가르가 자는 코는 specified the coordination allow changes 나물로라 또 지켜라 내가 지쳐라 또 비오세요 coordination 차수고 유명 아니 디줄라 쉐바 디스커스 시어라나 먼저 이 functions 나물로라 specify changes power source 그거 되고 유명 그래서 specify changes and 타마 쉐바드나니 구주기 체제 수요레스 power 제와서 맞아 power comes 되고 있는 좀 맞아서 체 수요레스 체 마서는 슝기 토다 그 컬러레 랑퇴 두베 티게레스 디줄라 아니 슝라야 or 제거에 계속 sorry 슝 constitution 기 규에 슝라 가르고마 시월스나 내가 야 말ше 지조 나올라 내가 야가 또 군수고지 되고 두베다 내가 내가 군수 내가 지주고 constitution 규에 constitution 기 규에 먼저라 다 컬러레 identity 지가도 was fundamental